Welcome. Imagine a world where everything suddenly shuts down. No power, no signals, just silence and rising chaos. A blackout isn't just a power outage, it's the beginning of the end. In today's ranking, we bring you the best movies and series where total darkness leads to survival struggles, deep mysteries, and raw human fear. And trust me, the final pick is a real hidden gem, so make sure to watch till the end. The lights go out now. The Blackout. Nothing foreshadowed the end. There were no bombs, no pestilence, just silence. The Blackout is a Russian science fiction that begins with a mysterious phenomenon. The whole world goes out, literally. Electricity doesn't work, there's no signal, and communications are cut off everywhere except a narrow strip of territory in Eastern Europe. As the army tries to understand what has happened, it discovers something far more disturbing. People have not only disappeared, many of them have turned into mindless, violent murderers. The line between science and madness is beginning to blur, and the world is heading toward a war that no one understands. This film is a combination of a military thriller, apocalyptic paranoia, and an unexpected vision of contact with something alien, something that may have already decided that humans don't deserve a second chance. Into the Forest. Try to imagine that everything you knew, electricity, technology, security, disappears without warning. No catastrophe, no explosions, just the end. Into the Forest, 2015, is the story of two sisters who are trapped in a cut-off house on the edge of the forest when suddenly all civilization stops. From one day to the next, they must abandon their old habits and learn to survive in a world that has gone back centuries. Hunger, fear, loneliness, and a growing external threat make the sisterly bond their only strength. This film doesn't rely on spectacular scenes of doom. Instead, it focuses on the quiet end of the world and the mental battle that must be fought when everything disappears. The Eternaut. One day, a dead silence falls over Buenos Aires. The electricity goes out, communications stop working, and snow begins to fall from the sky, beautiful, white, and deadly. The Eternaut is a series based on the legendary Argentine graphic novel in which an ordinary city is plunged into apocalypse. Anyone who steps outside dies almost instantly. In this new reality, Juan Salvo and a handful of survivors barricade themselves indoors, fighting for survival and trying to discover what is behind the mysterious events. As time goes by, it turns out that this is only the beginning of the invasion, terrifying, inhumane, and methodical. The series combines a post-apocalyptic atmosphere with mounting tension, showing ordinary people facing an unimaginable threat. The Eternaut is a story of silence after the collapse of civilization, of darkness after the lights go out, and of courage that is born in the darkest moments. Leave the world behind. Something has happened. Not sure what, not sure where, but the world outside stops working. In Leave the World Behind, a vacation trip turns into a suffocating nightmare when a family rents a house far from civilization, and the real owners show up at night with the news that New York City has just been plunged into darkness. No internet, no phone, no radio, just growing tension and strange phenomena that no one can explain. Who is telling the truth? Who to trust? And what actually happened? This film slowly, with claustrophobic precision, builds a paranoia in which the greatest danger may not be what's coming, but what sits inside people when certainty runs out. Leave the World Behind is not the end of the world with fireworks, but a creeping invisible panic that tightens like a noose. Revolution. Imagine a world where technology has gone out like a candle in an instant, without warning. Airplanes fall from the sky, cities drown in chaos, and the world goes back hundreds of years. Revolution is a series that takes us 15 years after a mysterious global blackout, where survival depends not on knowledge, but on weapons and cunning. Humanity has divided into warring factions, and America resembles medieval empires instead of a modern state. At the center of this new reality is young Charlie Matheson, who embarks on a dangerous journey to save his brother and discover the truth about what has taken the world's light. This series is a mix of adventure, mystery, and post-apocalyptic politics that shows that when the electricity goes out, people will catch fire. Vanishing on 7th Street. You are left alone in a city that just a moment ago was bustling with life. The silence is unnatural, and the darkness seems to live its own rhythm. This film throws you into the middle of an unexplained holocaust, where people disappear without a trace, and the only things left behind are empty clothes and scattered dust. The darkness here is not just a metaphor. It's something alive and hungry that consumes anything that dares to stay too long in the shadows. A few survivors desperately fight for survival, sheltering under the remnants of light, but the light goes out. And it's unclear whether it's more frightening to see what lurks in the darkness, or how quickly a person loses humanity when they feel the breath of the end. The film is mesmerizing in its atmosphere and leaves more questions than answers. That's why it stays in your head for a long time. Cobra. It started with a flash in the sky. A few hours later, the country was plunged into darkness. Cobra takes us into the heart of the British government at a moment of total crisis when a solar storm destroys the energy infrastructure and pushes the public to the brink of panic. The Prime Minister convenes a secret council to salvage what can still be saved. But every solution raises new problems, and every lie comes at a price. Riots break out in the streets, and in the underground corridors of power, there is a struggle for influence, loyalty, and the future of the state. The series combines catastrophic realism with political thriller, showing that in a world without electricity, the most dangerous threat may be the man in power. Cobra doesn't give easy answers, but it does ask very uncomfortable questions. Survival family. There is no internet, phones don't work, refrigerators are useless, and cars won't start. In Survival Family, a sudden, unexplained electricity failure paralyzes all of Tokyo and beyond. A world that relied on technology comes to a standstill. A Japanese family, accustomed to convenience and digital comfort, suddenly has to learn to live again. When the city becomes a trap, they head to the countryside on a journey filled with danger to find food, water, and maybe each other. The film shows with lightness and humor how much we have become dependent on things we once did just fine without. Survival Family is an apocalypse without the blood and the bang, but with plenty of truth about the modern world and family bonds that only revive when the signal is gone. Apagón. One day, everything stops working. Electricity disappears, communications go down, and the technology on which all of society depends simply shuts down. Apagón, 2022, is a Spanish anthology that presents 5 independent stories set in the aftermath of a global solar storm. Each episode features a different perspective on the same crisis, from doctors trying to save lives without equipment to families seeking safety in a world without rules. There are no showy action scenes. Instead, there are strong emotions, difficult choices, and characters that are easy to understand. The series shows how thin a line separates the everyday from the downtrodden, and how dependent we are on things we take for granted. It's a story about people put to the test when the world stops working as it always has. Before we reveal the final and possibly the best title on this list, let me know in the comments which movie or series impressed you the most. Subscribe if you're into this kind of content, because the apocalypse is just getting started here. And now, it's time for the true hidden gem, Blackout. What would you do if one day the lights went out and never came back on? Not just electricity, communications, technology, information were gone. And with them, people disappeared. Blackout is a German series that slowly reveals a terrifying picture of a Europe plunged into darkness after a global power outage. Chaos spreads faster than the cold, and governments try to maintain order in a world where every hour without power brings society closer to collapse. At the center of the story is a former hacker who is one of the few who may know the cause of the disaster and must decide whether to reveal it. This series is not only a technology thriller, but also a chilling vision of the modern world, which turns out to be as fragile as a light bulb. All it takes is one flash, and everything goes out,